Thank you. Do we go through communications at all?
No.
No need, public hearing. So the seeker,
Yeah, we have one continued resolution. That's the.
which one is it?
That's number 201. That relates to the agriculture law that we talked about.
I just sent you that, by the way. It's a
Okay.
pretty simple little
Okay.
sentence.
We
He had
had
it
to
written on.
insert something in it relative to the quorum for the ag committee.
So you're gonna amend that.
It's just gonna be a sentence that says a quorum's 3 members, so that if they have 6 or 5 or 7, they just need 3. So
Okay. So the financials, the monthly reports. Budget transfers.
Yeah, there were a couple of budget transfers this month, just a few small things that we moved around. Lindsay and I talked about first a few payroll items. HSA stuff, but all within the same benefits lines. Those are detailed in your attachment.
Mhm. The highway fund budget adjustment for service reimbursement.
Oh, yeah, that's for the money we did for stormwater projects. Okay.
and it's in your budget already, right? So
It wasn't in the budget, so that's why we're doing the adjustment. Jim's gonna have an increase in revenue. And we've been talking about the
okay.
cost of his expenses going up so much that we really felt like it was appropriate to give him an increase in expense with the increased revenue of this 72,000. We sat down with Kevin O'Banning and went through everything line by line, and the invoices that were submitted to the Watershed Council are attached to your agenda. And he was confident they'll all be reimbursed this within the year, before the end of the year.
but
can maybe somebody just summarize that at the meeting?
It is in the resolution.
I
It
know.
shows the increase in revenue and the increase in expense. So it's not an additional expense.
Yeah.
in the budget.
Okay, budget transfer for planning board activities.
This is just the planning board's line. right?
Yeah,
Right.
we had discussed that. They've done some site design and development criteria updates and had a little bit higher than normal attorney costs just for longer meetings the attorney attends. And so you'll actually notice on your budget report this month that line did go over. But as you can see, this amount is more than the 5,000 that's allowed for the town manager to transfer. So we're bringing it to you this month to get that back up in positive standing.
The one thing I think we need to be thinking about for the future is like the planning board gave the town board late last year, I think, their 22 priorities, and the town board approved those, but there was never a financial component to it, the request.
Mm.
And so it was just going against their line, and their line just doesn't have enough to cover those efforts that they're trying, like update to the site design criteria and stuff.
And it's mainly all legal fees, essentially.
Legal and engineering, I would say generally,
Okay.
almost all of it is legal and engineering.
Okay.
Planning board stuff.
Okay. Highway superintendent to complete app for fleet inspections, state and license through New York State. DMV.
yeah, what I'm asking for here is the board to approve us to go out to fill out the application to the DMV for approval fully only. We're not looking to be a inspection station to inspect our own vehicles with our mechanic. That will save us, one, in my opinion, them finding something wrong that really maybe isn't wrong, but they gotta find something wrong when they're out there. To travel either to Rochester or to Geneva. Every time we gotta take a vehicle for inspection, which we gotta go back and forth with people twice. And a lot of times we run over on inspection because we're just busy doing other things. So if we can do it ourselves here, we'll have a financial component to it to buy a computer for the state deal. I'm sorry, not DOT,
DMV.
DMV, thank you. And then, I don't think there's anything else. There wasn't an annuals, and we get stickers for free. and-
There's a very, very small cost that we talked about for each test. It's like 30 cents or something
Yeah,
for each
yeah.
test to get submitted through his program to the DMV. We spoke to the city of Canandaigua and Ontario County Public Works, who are both currently registered fleet inspection stations. And Kevin at the county said if they spend $30 on those tests a year,
Yeah.
it's the most they've ever spent. He said they're very, very minimal in cost, and what you're saving, and like Jim said, all of those different items is just really a no-brainer, but it's specifically fleet, not public inspection. So
How
it's-
much is the computer?
23, 25?
I think we put in 25 just to give it some room.
Okay.
Okay.
And we have plenty of staff that can,
We'll have
Figure
one
that out.
staff. Yeah. It'll be Jim Burke he'll be the one who'll be the one. I'm his supervisor overseeing him, but they'll be doing all the work.
okay,
He's our one and only mechanic.
Yep.
We don't really have backup.
Really deep bench.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have Terry, and
Yeah.
I'm actually very worried about that, you guys, since I had a conversation with Terry. We don't have a bench. And we have a lot of key positions with no backup, and it's gonna get tight here, I feel like, in the next
Yeah.
6 months.
Oh, 16, seeker determination, non-significance and adoption local law to amend town code. Agricultural protection overlay district. That's after the public hearing.
Yeah.
Yep. So this would be a new law. This is a new agriculture protection overlay district, and so what this would do, oops. So what it would do is this area over here, these green soils are prime soils, prime farmland. And you can see there's a big section in this area right here that has significantly good soils. So what this agriculture protection overlay district would do is it would say, okay, in these areas where there's prime soil, 7 acres or greater, south of County Road 30, north of Rossier Road, west of State Route 21, and east of the Canandaigua municipal boundary in this area. If, Mr. Developer, you're going to put a new development in here and run water or sewer, you have to get approval from the town board before the planning board can grant approval for that. That's all this does, but it adds another layer so that they can't just, like a Morel, can't just come in and decide they're gonna, and I'm not picking on them, but just as an example, they can't just decide they're gonna put a housing development in and run public sanitary and water in that area unless they get town board approval.
and they have to get county approval for water and sewer as well, correct?
Sewer.
Sewer, okay.
Water.
Yeah, the sewer connection, yeah,
Sewer.
but they would,
What leg would the town board have to say, no, sorry, Charlie,
this,
that's, okay, so there's.
because of
criteria.
prime, yeah, and it's the agriculture enhancement plan and stuff.
Okay.
But it only pertains, there was a lot of discussion at the ordinance and ag committee about, whether it be the whole strategic farmland protection area and everything else, and so. But this really is an effort to protect these prime soils right here that you see on this map, this area specifically.
That includes the whole red.
No, just this
Oh,
area.
It's like the center of,
okay,
kind of the heart of it.
all right.
What you're saying is those other areas, like to the
So-
south.
So it's more sporadic.
It's-
There's not.
Yeah.
North of 30 or 520, what was it?
Probably, north
County
to
Road
30,
It's,
Yeah,
to
So-
County Road 30 and.
Okay,
so it's south of County Road 30,
Okay.
north of Rossier Road, west of New York State Route 21, and east of the Canandaigua municipal boundary. So it's essentially that area.
okay.
you think development's gonna hit that area? Or?
Well, I mean, anything's possible, right? But there's not as much sewer in that area, although we do have sewer
Mhm.
here, right?
And Pierce Brook, well,
Right.
Yeah, but. Yeah.
I mean, Pierce Brook is the next step in that area, and then
Right.
down Middle.
Pierce
Church
Brook
Road.
is right here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But then here's Miller Park, right? So think if a developer came here and wanted to run an extension over to that, right? At least having this in place, the town board would get a say in it. as opposed to it just going to the planning board for approval.
Are there any PDRs in that section or are those all outside to the north?
Put it on the PDRs are mostly in the Meadowbrook Greenway and then the original ones down here. So
So a lot of those are already protected.
up here.
Yeah.
So it shows developers where to concentrate.
Yeah, again, that's what we keep trying to do, right? Is get the developers
Go
to stay
away.
in uptown.
Get out of this spot, go over there.
Go to uptown.
Okay, 217, second public hearing. Town code, chapter 174, chapter 220, chapter 1-17, relating to subdivision of land zoning definitions and seeker intent to declare lead agency.
We started talking about this yet?
Oh,
This is the same
Seeker.
exact law. Back with one addition. And that one addition is J. That is, the planning board shall be authorized to grant single lot subdivision approval of any parcel along a private right of way and classify such action as a minor subdivision, even if the private right of way has 4 or more parcels, provided the parent parcel meets the zoning requirements of the zoning district and the planning board signs and so creating the single lot subdivision, no adverse impact shall occur pertaining to the public health or safety of the adjoining parcels along the private right of way. So that was an attempt to mitigate the scenario that was presented to you at the last town board meeting relative to Mr. Novak. That would allow the planning board to do that. However, in further researching every scenario that was presented to you, none of them meet the underlying zoning district. They would all need variances, including Mr. Novak's.
so Mr. Westbrook
Full of it.
intimated that there were
And yes, this
numerous.
is
Yes.
being recorded.
That's why we needed to check them.
Okay. All right, well, it's number 218, authorization from town manager to create position zoning inspector full-time.
Go ahead, Miss HR.
Yeah, sounds great. So I know Doug and Shauna have been talking about the development office and staffing needs there, and we did find that we are in need of a full-time zoning inspector position just to help with the current workflow and the increase in workflow over there. So this is just authorizing. We are also losing, an employee as well. So this would be a better direction. Having it be full-time is more desirable for people to come, better talent. And then going forward, I think it'll set that department up just for consistency as well to service our residents. So what this is doing is just authorizing me to create the position so we can start canvassing for it. So the county has already come back to us and said that based on all the criteria, that is what the position is. And then you guys are just authorizing us to proceed with the hiring and creating the position for the town.
Is this intended to be a similar position to what Eric used to have, or what?
Eric was a planner. It was Kyle was the zoning inspector that we laid off with COVID.
Okay.
And he was full-time?
Mhm.
It's needed. I mean, I was in that position for 14 years and I don't know how they've survived the last 8 without it. It truly is a benefit for that department.
I mean, we're over 60 applications already this year, right? I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, plus special use permits, plus any of the zoning type matters. I mean, the one thing you always have to keep in mind is there's code enforcement matters, which are New York State building code. And then there's a lot of zoning related regulations that are really the zoning officer. And the way we've done it over the last number of years is we've duly appointed our code enforcement and our planner as zoning officers. So they're basically doing all those same jobs, but they just need more help. There's just the volume that's coming through there. They just need more help. So.
There's a lot of discussion that goes on without resulting in an application. Also,
Correct,
the
correct.
questions that,
Yes.
can I do this, can I do that?
Yeah. Plus, the other thing that I was talking to Sean about is the zoning officer theoretically could attend zoning board meetings free Sean up so she doesn't have to attend those. She can concentrate on the planning side of the house. And then obviously working with the applicants and stuff.
Appointment of lifeguards for parks.
Oh, yeah, so I got another lifeguard to help us through the rest of the season. So her name is Lillian Burgess and she's
Lily
been.
is one of the fastest swimmers in the county, so.
Yeah, so
good
you feel
job.
safe, right? When she's lifeguarding. So this is just to authorize her to work for us for the rest of the season
How
and
long is the season?
through Labor Day. So
Oh, so
Ononda will be
it's like
staffed through Labor Day,
weeks.
couple weeks, yeah, but you know what? It's
Yeah.
that position and having her is crucial to keep our beach open. So
She's a great choice
yeah, she seems like she's bright and
Oh, yes.
she'll be great. So
and fast.
I like that.
I know 220 accepting agreement with Canandaigua Emergency Squad and authorizing manager to execute agreement. Is this annual or additional?
Yep, this is something we've talked about for a little while. We've in the past made contributions to both Mercy Flight and Canandaigua Emergency Squad. And one of the things that we're attempting to do is to formalize these types of agreements so we can have some type of service reimbursement for the funds that we're providing. So Doug and I worked with the chief of the emergency squad to put together this agreement, and you'll see in the attachment that there are quite a few services and classes that I think are going to be a huge benefit to Lindsay and her summer staff, as well as our staff and our residents, that they'll offer stop the bleed, CPR, first aid. So Lindsay, I think will probably take the lead on being the point of contact and making sure everybody is available and aware of these options for services. And obviously they provide a great service to the community in terms of emergency services. So just looking to formalize this agreement, and then we have not made a contribution for 2022. So this would initiate that $5,000 contribution and assistance for them as well.
It is budgeted.
Yes.
Just the backstory on that. We used to make that contribution to them for many, many years. And I believe it was 2017, we stopped because we purchased the land next to the town hall. And the plan was that in lieu of that fee, we were going to be providing them the land for them to construct the new emergency squad. And then they chose to go back up there. So this would be the first year that that fee is reinitiated. So
Okay.
Who has been doing the training, the CPR and first aid? You've been doing it?
No, so our staff would go out and get it on the road. They would have to find it themselves, yeah.
Dennis used to be certified as an instructor for water work.
who's the water lady? Because there's a special open water.
Oh,
training that-
Jane from the city, yeah, and then there's also Sue Bennett.
Yeah.
Usually they go through the Red Cross. That's where.
Yeah.
Plus, the other thing that this gives us is for some of our larger events to have an ambulance on standby. I did notice, I don't know if it was planned or not, Canada Emergency Squad had an ambulance sitting
I did see that in that one
up at
parking lot.
building
yeah.
100 last night.
I saw
So,
that.
Yeah.
Not planned,
It
but
wasn't
how
planned.
convenient.
Well,
Well, I
But
wonder
they
if they saw
stay
the
in-
event.
yeah,
Yeah.
they stay pretty well in tune and stuff. And I know that they're planning to bring an ambulance down for Halloween and stuff, just in case.
It's nice for him to connect with the community anyway, so.
Absolutely. 221, approval of information technology professional services agreement with integrated services.
That's Gene's been.
I'm not that good at it. The last time we purchased, hours from integrated, our IT, backup. Well, they actually do a lot of stuff for us, but, was that last, I believe, September, where when we purchased 200 hours. Now we're down close to like 25 hours left. So when we get down to that point, we buy the next 100 hours because that can get chewed up fairly quickly. Unfortunately, this is it went from $75 an hour up to $85 an hour. Still very inexpensive, very cheap. That's their first increase in, oh my goodness, at least 5 years at least. So what that is, integrated, we use them to do a monthly service on our network server. And then they also host emails and do stuff with our Sonic wall and then Adobe licenses, and they just do a lot for us.
So we manage all our VPN licenses too
Yeah.
for all our remote work, so that's really important.
Okay. 222, authorizing manager to release a request for proposal for planning services to create a sidewalk and vision map and report.
So you might remember at our joint meeting that we had a conversation relative to having some sort of document of where sidewalks, those types of things are envisioned in the town of Canandaigua. In particularly helpful to the planning board and zoning board as they're reviewing projects and how those would connect up. We do have, I think it's about $50,000, right, in the 2022 budget for originally planned for a sidewalk along Parkside Drive for this year. And the thinking here is to use that money, since at this point, we're probably not gonna be doing it this year, to really do this work, put out an RFP to see what kind of proposals we can get to actually conduct this. I myself was actually going to do this and I started to do it. And I was just running into one thing after the next. It's like, okay, well, if you did it that way, then what about this? And so it's gonna take a little bit more of a consultant to come in that has experience with this, that knows the width and all the rules and regulations, depending on the specific roads, that can work with us, and probably a 6-month engagement type thing to, this isn't obviously town-wide. This is, okay, we know we don't want sidewalks, Seneca Point Road, right, as an example, right? But the areas where we do, really kind of spelling it out, and mapping it and creating a report, so. This would be the first step, throw it out there and see what kind of responses we can get. So,
That's something the Complete Streets Committee was asking for years ago, so it's definitely something we've been talking about for a long time.
Number 223, supporting Edgemere Development's application for funding for the New York State's
Housing and community
Housing and community, homes and community renewal.
Edgemere is a new project in Uptown on Parkside Drive, 48-unit apartment project. It'll be your first official application under form-based code that you're going to see. They're in the process of making plans or making application right now. Will be coming to the town board very soon. But this would be 48-unit building, 4 stories, like I said. Yeah, 4 stories. It goes right next to the trolley station and Liberty Apartments, that parcel in between the two of those. So there's already apartments there. This would be an application through the state of New York for funding for the construction of that, for the tax credits and all the stuff through HCR. So this would be a resolution in support of their application.
Could they be in competition with, Creepy, same funding source?
And Happiness House and all of them, right? I mean, that's the challenge that we have, is we're fortunate to have so many of them that they want to work with us and be here, but they're competing with each other for the same pot of money.
How much are they looking for to get from, build the whole thing out, or is there any private investment in it? Or is it-
It's a big piece of it is there is some private investment, but there's the big piece of it, of the whole tax credit stuff, like what Creekview did and everything, and all of that stuff. So this is kind of like early preliminary steps at this point. There's still a lot to figure out too, and it's probably not a buildable project without the grant. But with the grant comes strings. And I was talking to him, like, I'll give you a silly little example. The grant requires that they have a playground.
Mhm.
Well, it's across the street from a park. Can we get a pass? Well, no,
There's no
we're not
playground
getting,
there.
there's no pass. No, but even if they provided the playground at the park,
Yeah,
there's no pass. The playground has to be on site. So they're gonna be, so it's any number of different, so the grants sometimes aren't, they come with big strings.
Well,
So,
the first 3 letters in that acronym, NYS, those are all.
Okay, 224, regarding letter from AMP Energy regarding pilot for solar project. Context map, blah,
Yes.
blah, blah.
So we got a letter, it's attached to attachment number 12 here in the agenda. We got a letter from AM Solar. Basically, implying that they didn't. That they would not be applicable to having to pay town taxes essentially. That we would not make them pay a pilot. So the point of this resolution is a couple of things. Number one, to officially respond, because we have 60 days to respond in writing to AMP. I did get a phone call last night from a principal with AMP, and they apologized profusely that they said that the letter was sent to us in air, that they know that the town of Canandaigua has opted out of the solar exemption. But I think it's still good to officially put everybody on notice essentially here. The town code is quoted here. Sarah put the town code in here. The town of Canandaigua opted out of the solar exemption. Additionally, our standing general philosophy has been to object to pilots in the town of Canandaigua, and specifically also for the solar. All of our other solar projects pay full assessed value based on the state formula. And so the concern always is if we let one not do it, then all the others are gonna come knocking.
So
Open
it's-
floodgates. Plus the rest of us all pay for it.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, there's that too, right?
Okay, number 225, decommissioning irrevocable letter of credit 5932 Monks Road.
Yeah, the last three are all sureties, 220, 225, 226, and 227. Those are your standard, surety acceptance resolutions.
This would be the first time that in months we'll be able to mark something.
I know. I'm like, wait, is that a block? I've never had one of those.
Sheriff, you're up and saying, oh boy.
I have a question back on 220-201, the Ag Advisory Committee local law. Are those amendments significant that we would have to re-advertise?
I talked to Nadler about it. He said no, he thought that it was just procedural type stuff, but
Okay,
the section on the quorum isn't even in there yet, so we need to look at that. I guess ultimately the town board's got to make that decision.
okay.
You mean to do another public hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's significant changes. If it changes I was always under the understanding that if it changes the intent of the local law, that it needs to be.
It's not a
re-advertised.
typographical. No.
So, but if Chris Nadler is advising otherwise, change.
It's also the exact discussion we had about it at the last meeting, which was a public hearing. So that is exactly what the change that's being made. So
So super easy.
that is pretty easy, actually.
Yeah, it's a light one. So we'll make that work.
You know, it actually, it fit in the clip. I was like, wow.
Let's back up. Okay, well, anything else?
Yeah, one of the, this guy talking about the letter of intent for the to go to Farmington. The Canandaigua Farmington Water District, is that? I know you said something about Jared, you and Jared were gonna put something together and
But we haven't connected. So
So
there's
they're-
nothing yet.
I heard from Greg yesterday that they're looking for it. So,
Oh, really? Okay.
well, MRV's looking for it too, because then they get turned loose again to go.
Right, yeah.
So I think it's driven by Culver Road or here,
I don't know how.
but they're going to apply. For
Right.
a WIA grant again, so, you know, they want to get process, going. So.
I don't know how detailed it really needs to be. I thought that what we said was. We agreed essentially that there's a need for it, right? But details still need to be worked out relative to the administration and all that stuff,
Yeah.
where there's still a lot of questions there.
There was that, and there was discussion of how we put the path across the property from Prairie to Town Line.
But I think our plan on that was putting that into the project, right?
Mhm.
And then I believe that will suffice the landowner, although the landowner called me yesterday. Heard about the story. Sarah was out with the Gateway team and drew the attention of the landowner, didn't you, Sarah? Hi, Sarah.
We were very pleasant. We gave them the information they needed.
Did you look like you were surveying a new town road?
Then the guy kept referring to Mr. Janeco, you better talk to Mr. Janeco. First you kiss the ring, then you talk. That was the impression Greg had.
For the record,
Sarah wasn't even back before I got the phone call.
it was me and Greg Hotelling and Ed Crone from MRB, and we were out there, and from the looks of it, in preliminary survey, informal survey, it'll be completely in the state right of way. And we worked with Greg Trost, our local DOT guy, and he's confident that we'll be able to, and there won't be any issues with the state to do that.
The
We
sign.
can keep it, yeah, we can keep it completely in the right of way. DOT would of course prefer that we don't, but we are allowed to. It's in their state highway design manual, so. So that was good news.
Good news for you. I got work to do now.
Greg was a little taken aback by the.
It's pretty standard operating procedure.
Doubt the guy was a truck driver.
Anyway, all right, are we good for
So I
adjourning?
just have one question, the email from the West about their comments not being included in the.
I saw that
minutes?
this morning, but isn't it in this, is it in the communication for this month or no? It
Oh.
wasn't part of the minutes because they sent it,
That Sunday,
yeah,
it was sent the Sunday.
so it
before
didn't make the
meeting,
communication binder because the agenda goes out.
And there was no discussion of it at the meeting. So
So is it
Oh,
part of,
you email. His email said that you had said it would be attached to the minutes.
yeah, he did say that.
That I said attached to the
You
minutes,
sent him an email saying, I'll make sure this is attached to the minutes.
for the minutes.
Yep.
All right,
and
I'll have to
we never got it, so.
That's just.
To the minutes, I make mistakes.
And the
Yeah.
pictures and everything
Still
like that
recording.
get attached to.
Right.
We can't do that.
I meant the circulation, the communication, that's what we always put all that stuff in the communication binder. So,
All right. Okay, well, anything else? We're getting all excited, cemetery committee, we want to use bucket trucks and chippers and.
Back trucks.
Okay, well, then let's adjourn. Do we need a motion?
Second.
Yeah, good.
Bye, Sarah.